We live in a day and age where traditional homemaking has been forgotten about and even looked down on, where women are fighting to be in the same positions as men, indoctrinated to focus more on their careers and less on the home. When God created men and women more than just biologically different, our roles are meant to complement each other, not to compete. Our husbands are to be the breadwinners as we are to be the bread makers. Somewhere along the line, feminine has been replaced with feminism with the sole purpose of keeping women out of the home, which forces those to rely on the government to teach and raise our children. Marriage is falling apart because the God who created it is being left out of it. And an overall disconnect in the home because the one created to nurture it has been empowered to neglect.
People on this app act like this is the worst thing in the world. Stay-at-home mum. My husband's at work providing for our family. I have some sourdough fermenting on the bench, a baby, an apron, a cute dress. I'm tiddling around the house, cleaning things, making myself food. I can go to the beach if I want.
It's just as stupid as like Tradwives coming online to be like, I just don't speak unless my husband speaks to me, and I just stay at home like making everything from scratch. And it's like, then why are you making a video? Why do you have a career? Why do you have followers? Why are you making any money? Like, go and let your husband provide for you. Why are you speaking to us? Like, did we speak to you? Did your husband let you say this right now? It's a complete hypocrisy to it. So they're making money off of telling other women not to have a job. They're securing their independence. Like, these women are making bank. And so if they go on to have any problems in their relationship, they've got the money to go and leave. But they're encouraging other women not to speak, not to grow in any way, not to secure themselves financially. Like Pearl, what's her face? Like going around like telling everyone that women shouldn't work and women, shouldn't have a voice.
Right, Pearl, you would be called the female Andrew Tate. How do you plead?
Well, I take it as a compliment. I'm a fan of Andrew Tate.
And it's like, why are you speaking right now? Silence, woman, get back to the kitchen.
We're Tradwives. We believe in gender roles in our marriage.
We're Tradwives. We believe a clean home is a happy home.
We're Tradwives. Always obey our husbands.
We're Tradwives. We choose to stay home and support our husbands.
Tradwives. We always have dinner ready when our husbands get off work.
Tradwives. We always satisfy our husband's needs.
Tradwives. We wouldn't be caught dead in a bar or club without our husband.
Tradwives. We always respect and appreciate our husbands.
Tradwife trend is everywhere. Millions of people are watching women bake bread from scratch, wear vintage dresses, raise children, and embrace a more traditional lifestyle. Some people call it empowering, others say it sets unrealistic expectation for women. So what is the truth? So today we are looking at the both sides, good, the bad, and why it has taken over TikTok. So just in case you don't know, a tradwife is a short term for a traditional wife. It's usually describe a woman who chooses to focus on homemaking, cooking, cleaning, raising children, and supporting her family. But not every woman who enjoys cooking or staying home call herself. Every family is different, and people choose different lifestyles for different reasons, So why has this become so popular? The videos are very beautifully filmed. They show peaceful morning routines, homemade meals, cleaning homes, and a slower pace of life. And for many people, it looks calm, comfortably, and less stressful than normal life.
We live in a day and age where traditional homemaking has been forgotten about and even looked down on, where women are fighting to be in the same positions as men, indoctrinated to focus more on their careers and less on the home. When God created men and women more than just biologically different, our roles are meant to complement each other, not to compete. Our husbands are to be the breadwinners as we are to be the bread makers. Somewhere along the line, feminine has been replaced with feminism with the sole purpose of keeping women out of the home, which forces those to rely on the government to teach and raise our children. Marriage is falling apart because the God who created it is being left out of it. And an overall disconnect in the home because the one created to nurture it has been empowered to neglect.
Now, let's look at some of the advantage that this can bring. One, family time. Some families enjoy having one parent at home. It can create more quality time together. It can also create an avenue for learning useful skill, cooking, baking, gardening. The trend has inspired many people to learn practical life skill, and as well less stress for some homes. Some women say they feel happier focusing on their home rather than trying to balance everything at once. And as well, personal choice. Supporter says true empowerment means having the freedom to choose the life that makes you happy. Now, let's look at the disadvantage: financial dependency. Relying on one income can be risky in life changing unexpectedly because things can go wrong anytime, any day. Relationship can end, and like it's gonna be an issue for the woman. And as well, social media is not real life. Most videos show the highlights and not the hard days, not the stress, and not the challenges every family experiences. And I think it kind of sets unrealistic expectations. Some people feel pressure to live a certain way after watching these videos. This can also cause constant comparison when we compare our real life to someone else's highlight reels. It can affect your self-esteem because these videos are just videos that was filmed and just cut into pieces and joined together. So this has actually become so controversial. The debate is not really about cooking or cleaning. It's about choice, expectation, the gender role. Some people see the trend as empowering. Others believe it's glamorously an outdated lifestyle. So what do you think? Do you think this is empowering or is just an outdated lifestyle? We're going to watch some videos from women who have experienced this life, who has been through this journey, tell their stories, what they think about it, if it's an empowering journey or probably just discouraging people from doing this.
I want to start this video by saying that I'm not asking for money and I'm not asking for sympathy. What I'm asking for is if you are a young 14, 16, 21-year-old girl, listen up. I drove to the grocery store. I need to grab some milk and bread and a couple things, flipped open the bank app on my phone, and I've been sitting in my car crying ever since because I never have enough money. And why do I never have enough money? Because when I was a 19-year-old girl, I fell in love. My Mormon faith told me that I was supposed to be a stay-at-home mom. I got married. I started having babies. I dropped out of college. I never had a career. My only jobs that I ever had in life were a waitress at the Olive Garden and managing a pretzel maker in a mall. Oh, my first couple years of marriage, I decided that I wanted to be an entrepreneur, so I bought a windshield business. I was 20. And my Mormon stake president reminded me that women weren't supposed to work, so I quit my own business, handed it over to my husband, took my name off of it. I would work our family business throughout the next 24 years of my marriage, but I never got paid. I didn't have a salary. My name wasn't on it. I literally worked for room and board. That's it. I would eventually also launch a custom home building company with my uncle as the architect and my friends as the builder, my designs, my realtor. But again, because my husband was the man, his name was on all of the projects, his name was on the business. I remember one of the last custom homes that I built, we sold it and made about a $260,000 profit. That money all went into his bank account. I didn't even have a bank account. I should have said that in the beginning. I never had a bank account. He would give me little envelopes of cash to go grocery shopping with. Anyway, that house sells, the money goes in the bank. I just asked if I could buy myself a piano with the money. I had worked on building that house for 2 years. All of the money went into his bank account. Nothing was under my name. I got a piano and I got a free house to live in. And I got groceries. So I found myself divorced at age 44 just 5 years ago, and within just a few months I was living in my car while he made about $250,000. He would eventually quit that job so that he wouldn't have to pay alimony and child support. He has only paid alimony one time ever in the 5 years since we've been divorced. Once ever. Right after my divorce, I remember being really confident about my ability to get a job, so I put together a resume. I remember one of the first interviews that I had as management position for a windshield company, similar to the one that we had run. And the man actually laughing as he was interviewing me, like he was really sympathetic. He wasn't being a douchebag, but he was laughing. And he's like, so let me get this straight. you helped manage your family windshield business with your husband, but you were mostly a stay-at-home mom, and all you did was like the marketing and the hiring, firing, and some of the strategy for the business. But it became really apparent that I needed so many more skills to have any type of management job. I couldn't even like work the basic computers. He told me in the interview, please don't apply for any more jobs like this. You are not qualified at all. You're not capable of doing this unless you go back to school and get your degree or get some different experience. And so I ended up, my first job after my divorce was $11 an hour, 4 hours a day, working as an assistant to a school teacher in an elementary school. I made $44 a day. For 24 years, I lived in $1 million homes. I vacationed all over the world. I spent my summers in Hawaii. I could buy myself $500 jeans, diamond tennis bracelets. We had boats and RVs and whatever I wanted. And it never bothered me once that my financial security was dependent on that man being in love with me. I never realized that him liking me or not liking me or finding me sexy or attractive or interesting determined whether or not my children could eat, whether or not I could buy myself a fucking jug of milk and a loaf of bread. So I had my 5th surgery in 2 years, 2 weeks ago, and I'm supposed to be in bed resting, and I can't because I've worked 7 days a week since my divorce 5 years ago, which is why I'm covered in paint and looking like crap. We actually have a 4-day weekend here in Tucson, and since my partner isn't working, he's working on furniture flip partner projects with me. I have no retirement. I have no savings, no education, no resume. I was almost a straight A student throughout all of my education. I went to college at age 17. I had dreams for my future. I'm working so hard to get myself out of just perpetual side hustle hell. There's not a day that goes by that I don't wonder why. Why I didn't have a fucking backup plan. Why my kids eating and having stability was dependent on a romantic relationship. Why nobody told me to put money in the bank. Why nobody told me don't have babies until you have an education and some experience. Don't have so many kids. I wish somebody had told me to put my name on our vehicle loans and to put my name on our houses. I wish somebody had told me that it's okay to put those babies in daycare for a couple days a week and go to college and have a job. And I think I need to do an entire like Tradwife sequel, because you can be happy and rich and loving your life like Ballerina Farm until the guy walks out. I want you guys to imagine for a minute, even rich Hannah, if Deanna walked out, if all of his financial backing and he had to sell the farm, and then what does she have? Find another rich boy to marry? I just don't want one more woman to DM me, comment, send me their stories, cry to me about how hard it is for them to support their families, and I am so tired of living my own story. We have to make this stop. Raise your daughters to be financially independent. Focus on their futures and educations just as much as you focus on your sons. I wish that someone had done that for me.
Is becoming super popular right now.
Why is Tradwife content suddenly blowing up?
Because people my age that were traditional wives are getting divorced and realize that they threw 20 years of optional, available, could have been energy into the workforce, into their future. They threw that away doing laundry and watching their kids. Now, don't get me wrong. I wouldn't trade staying home with my children for anything. However, I would have insisted on some sort of investment into my future, either by way of a 401k, an IRA, a home in my name, or I would have had to have some sort of side gig where I could have put that on a resume if anything happened to my husband or our marriage. And so people my age, women that are in their 40s and 50s, that have raised their children, who have been traditional wives, are coming forward and talking about the realities of that. Because someone like my grandmother, who couldn't have left her husband no matter what, because she went from high school and her parents into being a stay-at-home wife and mother, she could never have left, ever. And so I, being 51, I am like one of the first or second generations of women being traditional stay-at-home wives who are coming out and saying, don't do this to yourself. And so Tradwife content is becoming super popular right now because what's happening is the Tradwife is glamorizing staying home and being a homemaker and a stay-at-home mother, which again, there's nothing wrong with that, as long as you talk about the fact that if your husband dies, you're screwed, like triple double screwed. I have a family member that if her husband died or left her tomorrow, she would be a stay-at-home wife, broke on her ass with 4 kids and no way to support herself. Or if he died, she's completely screwed. And for all of you out there that say, just marry a really good man, that's great and all, but what if you're sick of this really great man? What if he dies? What if he becomes like incapable of going to work? It's not that Tradwife content is extremely popular right now and everyone's being mean. What's happening is that we are the second generation of women coming forward to say, quit being so goddamn stupid and protect yourself. 50% of marriages end in divorce. And while he's making $100,000+ a year, you have no skills, no career, no resume, nothing except for kids and a dog and God knows what else. You'd be living in an apartment while he's got his new 20-something in his penthouse or the family home. So good luck. This content isn't becoming popular because we're mean. This content is becoming popular because you're glamorizing a lifestyle that you have known nothing about. You know nothing about. You're just a baby Tradwife, and that's okay too. And by the way, I'm not angry or bitter. I own an island and a Porsche. I have an amazing husband, but don't get it twisted. My kids were eating 99-cent pizzas when I was a single mom. We didn't go on vacation, and we had no money to go to Burger King. It's not bitterness, it's reality. If you get traded in, that's all there is to it. Your entire life is dependent on whether or not he still likes you. Good luck.
Why is Tradwife content suddenly blowing up?
Because people...
If you're wondering why you don't see a lot of Tradwife content from women who are sort of 35 and above, it's because they end up like me. Hi, for those of you who don't know, I was a stay-at-home housewife from when I was 17 to nearly 27. What my life looked like for that decade was essentially I waited for him to come home for about 10 years. At the time I was 21, I had 2 kids under 3, and so that took up an enormous amount of my time. They were only allowed to go to a Steiner Waldorf school under his rules, which basically means no tech, no screen time. They learn how to do things with like wool and clay, and it's actually really culty. And I personally wouldn't have picked that, but what he said went. I was incredibly submissive, and I loved him absolutely unconditionally, regardless of what he did to me. And yes, this was also a very abusive relationship, but I don't think that's necessarily typical to the degree that it happened to me, to everyone in these kinds of relationships. I was very fortunate that I worked part-time some of that time, although it was really hard for me to hold down work because my work was never prioritized and I'd only work like 7 hours a week anyway. So not enough to have financial independence, but enough to have a little bit of like pocket money, although he would often dip into that as well. The industry I worked in and like got any kind of education in because I wasn't allowed to go to uni was the beauty industry, because that was considered safe because I wouldn't have male co-workers and therefore I wouldn't have male friends, and I wasn't allowed to talk to male friends anyway, even the ones I'd been friends with for like over a decade at that point. I wasn't allowed to get tattoos. He had absolute say over what I looked like. He would decide how I dressed, how I wore my hair, and if I changed things without like asking him first, he would put me down either very directly telling me I looked awful or indirectly by saying, oh, I liked how I looked before, and he'd hassle me with it until I changed it to a way that he deemed acceptable. A really fun thing about that is I figured out years later that he actually just encouraged me to look like the women he was cheating on me with, so that's fun. I learned how to cook like a chef because his expectation was, from the time I was, again, 17 years old, was that I made everything from scratch with fresh ingredients. So I went to the supermarket every single day. But because I wasn't allowed to drive, I had to walk to the supermarket or take like buses and trains. And a lot of the time he wanted really niche food that meant I had to go on missions all over town, and that would take up my whole day with my toddlers in a pram, wandering around. And so what happens is eventually these women make friends. I made friends with other mothers because my children started school and I realized something actively bad was happening to me. I made a plan and I left. It took me 2 years. And so that brings you to why you don't see women who are older, who are mid-30s, mid-40s and up, making Tradwife content. When you leave, you have no ability to make your own money. You have no financial independence. So do you know what you have to do? You have to go study. You have to get a job. You have to figure out how to untangle all of his wants over your needs, which takes forever. Case in point, I am 34 years old. I have just started an undergrad degree and I have just learnt how to drive. And those two things are absolutely incredible. The first thing I did when we broke up, when I had a bit of money to spare, I got tattooed because I was finally allowed to make decisions about my own body. My hair has been every colour and length you could possibly imagine since we broke up because I get to make decisions about how I look. The thing is, the longer that you're in a relationship like this, in a way, it was kind of fortunate for me that there were more urgent factors that made me leave sooner, but I am still a good 10, 15 years behind everyone else my age in terms of setting up my finances, in terms of building a career for myself. If you've been in this relationship since you were like 18 and you are now 40, 50 or above, you have no idea how to make a career happen. And because you've got so many gaps in your resume, again, I was fortunate that I work part-time, you're not getting a job. You don't get to have any kind of life. You will be destitute forever. And I also feel like, and I can't relate to this because when we broke up, my children were still in elementary school, but I feel like if you've been in this relationship for decades, your grown-up children are probably also going to be really entitled because they've been raised on the belief that they can treat you like this because that is the norm. And so there are so many of us who have been in these kinds of relationships. I see them all over this app who are in their 30s, 40s and 50s who have left these kinds of relationships, who are like, for the love of God, don't do it. If you really want to cosplay as a 50s housewife, get an education, get your own bank account, put off getting married till you're a little bit older. So yeah, that's why. If you're wondering why you don't see a lot of Tradwife content from women who are sort of 35 and above, it's because they end up like me. Hi, for those of you who don't know.
Cute as fuck. Like, I thought it was just toothpaste and toilet paper and shit, but I get to make all the motherfucking decisions. It's a reveal. It really is super fucking amazing.
If you ever find yourself scrolling through Tradwife TikTok, one thing you'll notice really quickly is Tradwives never refer to their husbands by name. It's always the husband, my husband, or hubby, but they don't even mention their husband's first names. And after a quick thought experiment, I've realized why they do this. And it's because calling their husbands by their names would remind us, the viewer, that he's ultimately just some guy. And once we remember that he's just some guy, everything about the aesthetic falls apart. It becomes so unserious. Like, take the statement, I believe it's my duty to obey and submit to my husband. Sounds serious, right? Even if you don't agree with it, sounds archaic, medieval, high stakes. Now take the statement, I believe it's my duty to submit to and obey Keith. Keith? You married a Keith? The man you're submitting to is Keith? We all know a Keith. We all know some guy named Keith. No one should be submitting to a Keith, even if he is your husband. Keith isn't a king. Keith isn't the lord of the manor. That's Keith from accounting. You let Keith from accounting talk to you like that? Girl, we didn't even let Keith from accounting into the work group chat because he had an Android. We did not want all of our bubbles to turn green.
Hey, if you're a wife, I have a tip for you. Shut up. That's your tip.
Then why aren't you shutting up? Why aren't you taking your own advice?
You don't always need to talk. You don't always need to fight. You don't always need to be combative. So as a woman, you shouldn't be stepping into a room demanding respect, and you definitely shouldn't be demanding respect from your husband.
Ew, gross. Now, I don't know what goes on in your relationship, but this sounds like projection. This sounds like your own personal issues in your relationship. Whereas my relationship, I'm an active member of my household, and I have the freedom to speak and do as I choose anytime. And who asked you to give your unwanted and unsolicited opinion to other wives about what they should do with their own husbands and their relationship? I mean, why do you have an opinion anyway? Isn't that an oxymoron with Tradwives?
Husbands should want to come home to peace and know that you're not going to be combative.
But let me ask you, who was supposed to shut up when both people come home from work? Because the majority of couples in the United States, both people work. So, sis, if you are in a combative relationship or your husband thinks you talk too much or wants you to shut up when he comes home and you're okay with him not respecting you, maybe it's a you problem. Maybe he just doesn't really like you, because that certainly isn't the case for me. My husband actually likes me and wants to talk to me. My husband automatically gives me respect the same way that I give it to him. I mean, I could not imagine being in a relationship where my husband wants me to stay silent. So maybe you should start taking your own advice and just shut up. I mean, what are you even doing on social media?
These women coming out to advise women to go to this journey and be a trans wife. To me, I see it as hypocrisy, because you telling women not to work, to stay at home and take care of their family and take care of their kids, take care of the home, and let the man go to work and provide. It has a lot of disadvantage, and I think she making these videos, putting it online, and she's actually working, and she's getting paid for making this video. Probably she's even earning more than people who are going to a 9 to 5 job, monthly. It's possible she's earning more than them. So how come online telling people to embrace this journey? To me, it's hypocrisy, and I just don't know. I think she's working and she's getting paid for these videos. At the end of the day, every family is different. What works for one person may not work for another. The most important thing is having the freedom to choose the life that fits your own values and goals. So what do you think about the Tradwife? Is it empowering, unrealistic, or somewhere in between? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. I enjoy. Thank you for joining me today, and I will see you in my next video.